Obito is hands down one of the most powerful shinobi of all time. He's so strong that even the 4th Hokage, Minato Namikaze, pondered the possibility of Obito being Madara, the strongest Uchiha in history, despite him already being considered dead for decades at that point. But what if Obito actually had to face the same unstoppable force Madara did? What if he had to fight Hashirama? In this video, I'll be pitting multiple forms of Obito and Hashirama against each other to find out who's truly the stronger shinobi. Before we begin, as always, if you enjoy Naruto content, I'd appreciate it if you subscribe to support the channel and watch more videos just like this one. Starting off, in the first round we've got Yellow Mask Obito versus Base Hashirama. To state the obvious, even in base form, Hashirama is clearly way more powerful than Teenage Obito. But Obito does somewhat make up for this power gap with his ability to summon the full Nine Tails. Now I know Hashirama did fight evenly with the majestic attire Susanoo, however, he was in Sage mode when he did that, and we see that while Hashirama was in base form, he was purely on the defensive while running away, so scaling base Hashirama to the majestic attire Susanoo doesn't really work. Admittedly, we do see base Hashirama's Wood Golem catch a Nine Tails Bijuu Bomb earlier in the fight, which is extremely impressive, although I do think that this feat is a little overrated. Because something that I've never heard anyone bring up is the fact that Hashirama's Wood Dragon was wrapped around Kurama when he charged up and fired the Bijuu Bomb, meaning it wasn't at full power, since the Wood Dragon suppresses chakra and would have been actively weakening Kurama. This is further supported by just looking at the size of the Bijuu Bomb relative to Hashirama and comparing it to the one Kurama fired at Minato, because when you put them next to each other, it becomes clear as day that the Nine Tails Bijuu Bomb caught by Hashirama's Wood Golem wasn't at full power. Even though this feat in particular is a bit overhyped, it's still definitely fair to say that Hashirama's Wood Golem scales to the Nine Tails in general, as the 4th Theta book notes that the Wood Golem fought the Nine Tails evenly, implying that they are relative. Because of this, when Obito summons the Nine Tails, I think Hashirama will respond by using his Wood Golem to combat it, and in all likelihood this is going to be a very close fight for a decent amount of time. But this situation is still very bad for Obito, because as Minato points out, even Madara couldn't maintain the Nine Tails in real space for a significant amount of time after summoning it. And considering Teenage Obito is weaker than Madara, the Nine Tails won't be able to last long under his command. This means that eventually, Obito will be forced to desummon the Nine Tails, and when that happens, he'll be completely on his own against Hashirama, which obviously won't end well. At this point in the series, Obito doesn't have many offensive jutsu, except for his fire style, paper bombs, and wood style, which Hashirama is way better at. So just like in his fight against Minato, Obito's only real win condition is to suck Hashirama into the Kamui dimension, and this is way easier said than done, because Obito isn't able to phase while creating a portal, meaning if he tries to absorb Hashirama into the Kamui dimension, it opens up the possibility of Hashirama landing a direct hit, which would definitely be fatal to Obito, who doesn't have any great durability feats as a teenager. Yes, Obito did survive a hit from Minato's Rasengan, which clashed with a weakened tailed beast bomb from Kurama, but his arm was literally blown off from that attack, so claiming Obito's durability scales to the Rasengan would be disingenuous. To be fair though, Obito isn't an idiot, so it's likely that he'd try to catch Hashirama off guard by teleporting behind him to suck him into Kamui, similar to when he initially attacked Minato. And if he does this successfully, then it's possible that Hashirama wouldn't be able to hit him in time before he gets transported to the Kamui dimension. That being said, I seriously doubt that Obito is capable of catching Hashirama off guard, because even in base, Hashirama is an extremely good sensor and was capable of detecting Black Zetsu, which is absolutely bonkers, considering Zetsu is literally the Akatsuki's intel guy that has watched almost every fight in the series while remaining undetected. So, since we've seen other sensory types like Fu instantly sense where Obito materializes, Hashirama should be able to do the exact same thing, which means that catching him off guard will pretty much be impossible for Obito. Then again, on the flip side, Hashirama doesn't have a very easy way of winning either, because Obito's phasing will be able to counter the large majority of his attacks, since it is still effective against characters much faster than him. After all, there are only 2 instances in the entire series where we see Obito's Kamui get blatantly countered without Kakashi, another Kamui user, working against him. The first time happened when Minato used the Flying Thunder God to tag Obito, but this isn't really an anti-feat, since it's likely that Minato teleported with the Rasengan already on Obito's back, rather than his movement speed blitzing Kamui. I know the anime has a different interpretation of this scene, and normally I would side with what the anime portrays, but a lesser known fact is that the Road to Ninja movie actually has its own version of this encounter, and in it, Minato teleports already facing downwards to hit Obito's back, which is closer to what we see in the manga. So, Kamui was outpaced by FTG, not Minato, meaning it doesn't really imply that Hashirama could counter it with raw speed alone. And the only other time we see Kamui get countered is against Konan's 600 billion paper bombs, which is because Obito can only phase for 5 minutes consecutively, so by detonating the bombs for 10 minutes straight, he would be forced to get hit by them. Even though Hashirama wouldn't be able to exploit this weakness in the exact same way Konan did, since he isn't aware of the 5-minute timer placed on Kamui, I do think his wood-style Deep Forest Bloom would be able to take advantage of it nonetheless. This jutsu of Hashirama's grows ginormous flowers that produce pollen capable of rendering anyone who breathes it in unconscious. If Obito is caught in the vicinity of this jutsu, he'd be completely screwed, as phasing through the pollen won't work since when Kamui's 5-minute timer runs out, the pollen will still be there and Obito would be forced to inhale it. Obito also wouldn't be able to use Kamui to teleport out of the jutsu's range either, because as I've already established, he has to physically manifest himself to teleport, so the pollen would still knock Obito out if he tries to escape to the Kamui dimension. Because of this, I believe that Hashirama's Deep Forest Bloom would probably grant him the win against Obito, and even if you assume that it wouldn't work for whatever reason, then neither of them have a way to beat the other, making the fight come down to a battle of stamina, which Hashirama obviously trumps Obito with. So, realistically, even when being generous to Obito, which I think I have been, Hashirama is definitely beating him the large majority of the time in this scenario. Next up, we got White Mask Obito versus Edo Hashirama. Even though Obito no longer has access to the Nine Tails due to Minato's contract-breaking seal, he should still be an overall stronger combatant due to gaining the Rinnegan, which provides a major power boost, and more importantly, he's now got 6-tailed beasts under his control to make up for the loss of Kurama. On the other hand, Hashirama is a good deal stronger too, because even though he was weakened by the Edo Tensei, I am granting him access to Sage Mode in this round, which far outweighs the Edo Tensei nerf, as Hashirama is noted to be close to his full power when revived, meaning once he activates Sage Mode, which massively boosts the power of his ninjutsu, Hashirama should definitely be stronger than his alive counterpart in base. With this in mind, Hashirama should be able to dominate the 6-tailed beasts under Obito's control, because we've already seen his wood golem scrap with the full 9 tails, and Naruto beat the crap out of these same Biju using only half of Kurama. Of course, this isn't an exact one-to-one comparison, as Naruto is a perfect Jinchuriki, but considering an even stronger Naruto was still noted to have a bit less chakra than Hashirama, it leads me to believe that Hashirama would perform even better than Naruto did against the Jinchuriki, especially since his wood style is very proficient at suppressing tailed beast chakra. Realistically, the Biju's best bet is to create a combined tailed beast bomb and fire it at Hashirama, but even this isn't very likely to work, since Hashirama can just use his wood-style expulsion jutsu to survive the explosion, as it has successfully tanked the suppressed Biju bomb from Kurama without a scratch, and Madara even noted that the jutsu was perfect to take on tailed beasts. Additionally, Hashirama can also use the deity gates to completely restrain the Biju and suppress their power, which is going to be very effective, as the gates worked on the 10 tails, a beast that was considered to have immeasurable chakra even when compared to Kurama. So, the tailed beasts aren't going to be a problem at all for Hashirama, and he should be able to stomp them way faster than Naruto did, forcing Obito to retract the Biju back into the Ghetto Mazo, turning the battle into a 1v1 just like the last round. Now, I will say that Obito has obviously gotten a lot stronger from the days when he was a teenager, but he still falls short of Hashirama. We know this because in the 4th data book, Madara is stated to be the strongest Uchiha, which blatantly makes him stronger than Obito. This is further supported by Madara pondering if he should lend Obito his chakra, after seeing Naruto give Nine-Tails cloaks to the Alliance, which wouldn't make any sense if Obito was really on Madara's level. So, since Hashirama stalemated this version of Madara when they fought against each other, he'd be more powerful than Obito as well. Although, I will say that the strength gap isn't nearly as big as it was in the first round, because Obito has now shown the ability to consistently tank attacks from KCM2 Naruto, who, to be fair, is weaker than Hashirama, but this still means that Obito isn't getting one-shot by a single punch like his teenage self would be. Plus, the Deep Forest Bloom which won Hashirama the first round isn't very likely to work against this version of Obito, because a weakness of this jutsu that I didn't mention in the first round is that if you're high enough in the air, the pollen emitted by the flowers won't be able to reach you, so it can't knock you out. Even though teenage Obito wouldn't be able to take advantage of this, Rinnegan Obito definitely can, because he can summon the Geto Mazo, which would be able to provide enough height to avoid the pollen, and is also likely strong enough to destroy the roots, like Onoki's particle style did. However, this doesn't mean that Hashirama has no way to take Obito down, as he still has a trump card up his sleeve in the form of wood clones. The reason why these clones would be so useful is because in Fu and Torone's fight against Obito, it's shown that Kamui can be countered by two people working together, as long as they consistently aim for mutual strikes, since Obito is forced to materialize for his attacks to land. We also see something similar when Guy and Kakashi save Naruto, as their attacks forced Obito to dematerialize, causing his hand to phase through Naruto and prevent him from being captured. So, if Hashirama sees Kamui get used a couple of times, he could likely deduce that using his clones to aim for mutual strikes is the best course of action, which would be very effective against Obito, because even though this strategy didn't work for Fu and Torone, it was more so due to them being too weak to execute their plan, rather than their strategy being bad. And the situation becomes even worse for Obito when you consider that only Madara is capable of telling Hashirama's wood clones apart, which means that Obito might accidentally suck one of the wood clones into the Kamui dimension. If this happens, Obito would essentially lose the fight right then and there, because it would mean that whenever he phases, the wood clone would be right there to attack him, just like Kakashi did in their fight. Keep in mind, Obito conceded that Kakashi could have killed him several times over, but chose not to because he still felt compassion towards him. So if Obito does send a wood clone into the Kamui dimension by mistake, it's basically a guaranteed win for Hashirama. Although, I will say that it's not completely impossible for Obito to win, even if Hashirama creates wood clones, because he does have a way to beat Hashirama without sucking him into the Kamui dimension, which is the 8 trigram seal. A lot of fans don't know this, but Obito did place a brand new seal on Naruto to seal Kurama back inside him, along with pieces of the One Tails and 8 Tails. This isn't headcanon at all either. In fact, we get an explicit statement from Kurama himself that the seal will disappear after he is extracted, and then when Obito places a hand on Naruto's chest to seal the Nine Tails back in him, a perfect 8 trigram seal is created on his stomach. This means that Obito can use the 8 trigram seal, and is also good enough at it to seal away more than half a Nine Tails worth of chakra, since he sealed pieces of the 1 and 8 Tails as well. Considering Edo Hashirama only has a bit more chakra than half the Nine Tails, Obito should be capable of sealing him away, which may seem weird since the 8 trigram seal has mainly been used on tailed beasts. However, Minato did use it to seal a piece of his and Kushina's chakra in Naruto. Of course, they weren't literally locked in the cage with Kurama, but I would argue if it's possible to not only seal their chakra within the 8 trigram seal, but also design it specifically so that Minato and Kushina would appear at particular events relating to the Nine Tails, then the idea of placing a person's chakra inside the cage, which is the most basic function of the seal, isn't much of a stretch. Keep in mind, it's stated that the 8 trigram seal can also be placed on objects, so Obito wouldn't be becoming the Hashirama Jinchuriki or anything crazy like that. He'd likely just seal Hashirama inside a scroll, which is similar to how the Shinobi Alliance sealed the Edo Tensei as well. That being said, it's not like Hashirama will just sit back and let Obito seal him, so the only way I could see Obito pulling this off is if he uses the Rinnegan rods to immobilize Hashirama first, which will be nigh impossible, because Obito can't tell him apart from his wood clones, meaning he would literally have to keep firing them at every clone he sees until he hits the real Hashirama. Keep in mind, Obito has to materialize himself to fire the rods, meaning every time he does it, Hashirama will have a direct opening to land a hit on him. Plus, this is all assuming that Obito's Rinnegan rods could even immobilize Hashirama in the first place, as we see that Naruto is capable of resisting Nagato from controlling him with the rods, and even though Madara is capable of restraining Hashirama with them, he's much stronger than Obito anyways. So, I think that it's much more consistent for Hashirama to take this more times than not, which isn't to say that Obito has no chance of winning, but the tailed beasts just aren't a problem for Hashirama, and when it comes down to a one-on-one, there isn't really a surefire way for Obito to take him down. For the final round, we have 10 Tails Obito versus Final Valley Sage Mode Hashirama. In the previous fights, Hashirama has had a clear edge in terms of raw power, but this is no longer the case because Hashirama himself admitted that Obito is stronger than him, with Tobirama adding that even if Hashirama absorbed his wood clones, he would be no match for Obito. Of course, Hashirama was nerfed by the Edo Tensei in this scene, so saying that Obito scales over him based on this statement alone wouldn't be fair, but considering Hashirama is still close in power to his Final Valley self, it indicates that they're at least relative. And if you consider the fact that Obito easily destroyed the barrier created by the Hokage pooling their chakra together, then he should likely surpass even Prime Hashirama, because KCM Minato, Tobirama, and Hiruzen put together would more than make up for the Edo Tensei nerf. This means that Obito is more powerful than Hashirama, and realistically, I don't think there's anything in Hashirama's arsenal that can take him down. We've already seen Obito casually flex out of Hashirama's deity gates, and even the 1,000-armed Buddha statue wouldn't be much help in this situation, because Obito could just create a 6-sided Crimson Ray barrier to trap the statue, and then fire off 4 10-tailed beast bombs to blow Hashirama up, which is the same strategy that would have taken out the entirety of the Shinobi Alliance had Minato not teleported everyone outside the barrier. Another way Obito could one-shot Hashirama is with the Truth-Seeking Orbs, as they are capable of directly attacking the soul, which we know because even after the Edo Tensei was released, Minato's soul is still missing the arms that the Truth-Seeking Orbs cut off. Because of all this, Obito should be able to win against Hashirama 10 out of 10 times, which isn't meant as an insult by any means. 10 Tails Obito was just narratively presented as Hashirama's limit, and his feats reflect this as well. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, make sure to subscribe and click the video on the end screen. Later!